think your leader is a part of the equipment that most people don't pay enough attention to. I use long leaders for all types of fish, so it's important to have them castable for each one of those situations. The simplest way to achieve this would be to tie a 7.5-foot tapered factory leader to a heavy 3-foot mono butt section. Another way to get the desired leader you want is to actually build it yourself. So we're going to build a leader today that starts out probably with 40 pounds. The diameter on that's .024, which matches up with the tip of my fly line and gives me the stiffness I want there. So we're going to start out by pulling off a section of it that is generally about half the size of our total leader. So if my table is 4 foot long right here, we'll measure out approximately 4 feet plus a few extra inches and cut it right there. Our next section we don't need to cut. Let's go ahead and get a successful knot tied before we cut it. We know we have about 4 foot here, so we're going to tie this guy in, and it is going to wind up being about half the size of the first section. And I'm simply tying a blood knot right here. And I'm tying these two sections together. And the bigger the diameter of this line, the fewer turns you need to make on this blood knot. So I've made my wraps, I've tied it together. You always need about 1 extra hand than you have. Wet the knot and pull it together, and you've got your first joint made. So there's our first 4-foot section. As I said, the second section is going to be about half the size as the first. So we're going to come in here at about 2 feet. The table being 4 feet, we're going to do about half the table plus a couple of inches, and then we're going to tie it into our third section. Again, we're not going to cut it till after we've tied a successful knot. So I'm going to come where I think about, 2 feet is. You can actually measure it if you want. If you're a good judge of distance, just eyeball it. And again, we're going to tie a blood knot. So here we come in with our second knot and our third section. So I'm tying a blood knot again. Somewhere along this point, you might want to add a wrap as the diameter becomes a little smaller. Finish off our knot. Begin to tie it, wet it, pull it tight. So now we have 2 knots, 3 sections. Now we're going to add our last section. Today it's going to be a 15-pound because of the wind conditions and the size flies we're going to fish with. So this time I'm going to unroll it a little more than I need, and I am going to cut it because we're tying a different kind of knot. We're going to tie a surgeon's knot here. Double overhand surgeons. So it's going to require that the end of the knot, end of the leader be free. So I'm going to tie 1, 2 overhand knots, which will give us the surgeon's knot. Make sure it's all nice and even. Wet it, pull it tight. Now, before I even clip the tag ends or anything, I can inspect my leader, I can measure it, I can put a loop in it if I want to, and it's ready to go. Go ahead and leave your tip a little longer than you need it, and you can trim that when you put your fly on. Let's take a look at the leader we just tied. Our first section is a piece of 40 pound that's about 4 feet long. Our second section is 30 pound, which is about 2 feet long. That gives us 6 feet at this point. Our third section, which was 20 pound, is not much more than about 1 foot, and it's really just a diameter size for us to tie our tip to. Now we're up to 7 feet. If we were going to add about 1.5 feet or 2 feet of tippet, we'd be at 9 feet. So with these 4 sections, I very easily tied a 9-foot leader. By simply modifying these lengths, I can make it 9 feet, I can make it 10 feet, 11 feet, or whatever you desire. I can also start off with a heavier diameter butt section and make a steeper, more progressive taper on the leader for turning over bigger flies or for helping you in windy situations. After examining your leader, if everything looks okay, we want to come back, trim the knots, and on a blood knot you can trim them pretty close. We'll go down and trim every one of them. What you might want to consider doing also is getting some, soft epoxy or some kind of soft flexible glue, coating this knot so it's a little smoother around the edges and also to keep it from coming untied. I've never seen much of a problem with these wanting to come untied, but it might give you a little more confidence if you were to seal that and smooth it off a little bit. Good leader construction and smooth knots make for good fly turnover.